Hey, it's Greg here with Maritime Gardening. I'm out here, it's early October, and I thought I'd show you some success I had with some late plantings this year, things you would not normally plant as late as I did. I'll show you how they're doing. We've been lucky there hasn't been any frost yet, and it looks like for the next 6 days we're not going to get frost, so it looks like we're having a very extended season this year, which is great. But anyway, let's have a look at these few things. So the first thing is this. These peas I planted, I would say around the beginning of August. So they're not as big and as magnificent. Normally I plant peas at the beginning of April, and they grow 7-8 feet high, the same variety. These ones haven't grown as high. Of course, you know, when you plant them in April, right, you've got 12 hours of sun a day, and you're going to get more sun every day. And we just had what is it, the fall equinox, so we're getting less and less and less sun every day as of like September 20th, right? So they didn't grow as much as they would have grown in spring, and I'm finding the peas aren't as big and aren't as fat. So the vigor, not as much vigorous growth, there's not as much of the actual fruiting, but still it's peas, right? Like, it worked, right? This was a garlic garden, and it would have just been laying fallow, right? Or I would have moved something into it, I guess. But I thought, what the heck, right? And I planted these, and it's worked out just fine. Another thing I planted very late was these bush beans, yellow bush beans. Now, I mean, they're starting to shut down. Bush beans aren't like other beans. They produce their beans, and then they're done. So we've been picking beans the last few weeks, lots and lots of them, and I've been, you know, cooking them and eating them and turning them into mustard beans and stuff like that. And they're pretty much done now. But planted these, same thing, around the beginning of August, and now it's end of September, and beginning of August, maybe middle or late July. I can't remember precisely when I planted these, but it was way later than, like, normally you plant beans around the end of May, where I live anyway. That's end of May, 1st of June, first couple weeks of June, not the end of July, which is when I planted these. Because they're bush beans, they grow a lot faster than pole beans, so they worked. Finally, I started some basil indoors in maybe 1st of April, and I planted them out probably a little bit too early, around the end of May, 1st of June. And those basil really suffered. So around that same time, beginning of June, I started basil transplants just in seed trays. I started them outdoors in my driveway and just nursed them along, and I planted them out much later, and these are those basil, right? So I direct seeded them outdoors in transplant trays like in June, and they grew very quickly. And I mean, they're just hitting maturity now, but we're having lots of nice pasta. You know, as soon as there's a real risk of frost, I'll have to start harvest all of these and turn them into a pesto. But I mean, you can see, got lots of basil, right? And it worked out just fine. So you can start basil late and plant it late, and as long as you don't get a, you know, early September frost. We had a frost-free September. We had one night there was a risk of frost, never happened. But this basil worked out great. One more thing, this doesn't really count because it's not in the same category, but this is kale that was growing over there in that kale bed. And I pulled them out, and they were kind of like really pest-ridden and not doing so well. Basically almost nothing. Just a couple sprigs, really, but a full, you know, fully mature root ball on each plant. But basically, when I planted these, did not look like much, and that was just over a month ago. And now I've got a wonderful bed of kale over here, right? I mean, you can see the size of my hand, right? These are good sized kale. So again, a thing you wouldn't think you could do, you know, around, I don't know what it was, end of August, moving kale to a new bed. This was another garlic bed that was basically like vacant space. And now I've got a full, lush bed of nice healthy kale. Anyway, just about out of light here, so I got to wrap this up. But yeah, I just thought I'd show you that. Just a couple really, really late things that actually worked. So just a thing to, stick in your memory for next year. If you have something fail, or you have a garden bed that doesn't do so well, you got some space. Or if you try one of those 3 things I just mentioned and they didn't work out, try again. Right? You can still have time to plant these things in, July or even early August. If it's a fast-growing variety, short days to maturity. If it's a bean, a bush bean, that sort of thing. Or like the peas I planted. So I planted them early August, but peas are frost sensitive, right? Beans won't take any, if we had any frost, the beans would be shut down. But peas are a bit tougher, they can take a little frost. So peas are a very safe thing to plant like that. But as you see, they don't grow as vigorously as they would when they're planted in spring. But it's still something. If you got a bed, it's just sitting around, you got a few extra minutes some evening, get some peas in there, and maybe in September, October, you have a few nice feeds of peas. Why not, right? So anyway, I hope you find that interesting. If you did, please like, share, subscribe. Check out my podcast at maritimegardening.com. Check out my weekly article at maritimegardening.substack.com. And until next time, get out there, get at it, have fun in your garden. Thanks for watching.